Let's be honest, it's not your beauty. It's not about how good you are in bed, as hard as that may be to accept. It's not even about how loyal, loving, or caring you are. You can make him pancakes in the morning, support his dreams, even become some kind of virtual therapist for him. And still, he leaves without looking back. Why? Because there is a silent, uncomfortable, and deeply psychological trigger that hardly anyone talks about, but that changes everything. Without it, he may like you, he may desire you, he may even tell you that he loves you. But he doesn't feel that true love, not yet. Be vigilant, because as soon as you understand this trigger, it suddenly makes sense why some women become the one, while others remain just another unresolved chapter in his past. Let's break down this fairy tale through the eyes of Carl Jung and dive into the truth no one tells you. Do you believe that one day you will be loved if you do everything right? If you give enough of yourself, are understanding, present, sexy, calm, strong, and at the same time gentle, that then the day will come when he looks at you and says, "She is the woman of my life." Sounds logical, almost fair. After all, you were taught that love is something to be earned. You just have to be the best version of yourself, and eventually someone will see that glow. But here comes the uncomfortable truth that hardly anyone wants to hear. Effort does not create love. You can cook his favorite meal, support his projects, laugh at his jokes, adjust to his rhythm, answer his messages in your free time. And he still leaves. Or worse, he stays but without giving anything back. Physically present, emotionally absent. He tells you beautiful things, but in reality, you are interchangeable for him. He says he misses you, but he doesn't take a single step. And there you sit, emotionally drained, asking yourself where you went wrong, thinking, I ask for too much, I ruin everything, I am the one who cannot love properly. But no, you're not asking for too much. You just learned to invest love as if you were paying off a debt that was never yours. You were taught to believe the more you give, the more he will love you. But that's not how men work. And no, this is not a criticism of them. It's an insight into the enormous difference between attraction, comfort, and true love. The great mistake is believing that these three are connected. They are not. The truth is, love does not arise from comfort. Love arises from emotional turmoil, from the moment his ego is shaken and he asks himself, and if I lose this woman? Who will ever make me feel this way again? And that has nothing to do with how much you do for him. It has everything to do with how he feels with you, and even more, how he feels when you are not there. You can be the most loyal, present, and caring woman in the world, and he still won't choose you. Not because you're not enough, but because true love requires an inner movement that no external effort alone can trigger. This is the wound of so many women, giving themselves completely and still not being chosen. And when he leaves, distances himself or says, I'm not ready for something serious, the first thought is, I should have done more. But that's not it. It's not about doing more, it's about doing less, but the right thing. And what is the right thing? Exactly what awakens emotional doubt in him. What gives him the sense of loss even when he still has you. Something that cannot be bought, copied, or replaced. Have you noticed that men are more likely to commit to women who don't force love, who don't demand reciprocity, who don't constantly try to prove they are good enough? Because true love in a man is not triggered by what you do for him, but by the effect you have on him. And here's the shock. Often it is the woman who has done the most whom he leaves behind, and the one who has done less, but had a deeper impact, is the one he loves. Unfair, absolutely. But reality, all the more painful when women confuse emotional reward with real proof. They do, and wait for the prize of love. But love is not a prize. Love is connection. And connection requires something that pure effort cannot create. Perceived value. It is of no use to be worth gold if he doesn't recognize it. And worse, the more you try to prove your worth, the more he feels he can have you without ever having to win you. That is the emotional turning point, when you realize you are amazing and yet feel alone in the relationship. Then comes the fear, the doubt, the comparison with other women, and the desperate attempt to figure out what the other has that you don't. But the problem was never what you had or didn't have. The problem was that you believed the lie that love must be earned through effort. And when you believe this lie, you settle for crumbs and hope that someday the feast will come. But the feast never comes because he already gets everything served without having to do anything himself. Before you blame yourself, you need to understand this emotional logic. You need to understand that effort, affection, and devotion do not create a real bond. They create comfort. And comfort is not love. Comfort is an acquired right, a convenience, and I'll stay until something comes along that challenges me more. Maybe now you remember that relationship where you gave everything and got almost nothing in return. Or that man who was excited at first but withdrew as soon as you gave more of yourself. It's not your fault. It's just the reflection of an emotional pattern no one taught you to recognize. But now that you see it, you can't pretend you don't know it anymore. The question is different now. If effort doesn't create love, what does? What truly makes him think, I cannot lose this woman? The answer to that can change everything, and that is exactly what we are talking about now. But first, tell me, have you ever experienced this? Have you ever given everything and still realized it wasn't enough for him to love you? Write it in the comments. You're not alone in this. You can be beautiful, independent, smart, and sensual. You can laugh at his jokes, cook his favorite meal, and even support his craziest dreams. You can be loyal, present, and available. And still, one day, he disappears into his own silence as if he had never felt anything. Then comes the nagging doubt. Did I do something wrong? Probably not. Maybe you just did everything that does not trigger what really forces a man to love. Most women believe that male love comes from sympathy, desire, or harmony. But male thinking does not respond to love the way female thinking does. The reason is deeper and more uncomfortable than it seems. Men don't love because of sympathy, they love because of meaning. A man only begins to build true love when he feels that his very existence makes a difference. When he realizes that it's not what he gives, but who he is, that creates an emotional impact in you. As long as he feels like just another person who pleases, helps, satisfies, he can have fun, he can stay, he can commit, but his heart remains closed. Not because he feels nothing, but because it lacks meaning. Male love is a process of building, and it only begins when he feels emotionally significant, not just desired, not just respected, but indispensable, as if something in you says, with you, it's different. Only you can take this place. Here lies the key. Carl Jung described the process of individuation, the path by which we become our true selves, as something that requires mirrors. People who not only see us but mirror back to us who we are at our core. Men don't fall in love with just any woman, but with the one who unconsciously reflects the best version of themselves. This is not flattery, but identity connection. When a man feels meaningful, he does not feel powerful, but existent. For a moment his ego falls silent, and something deeper says, here I am, seen. This is rare because it requires that you are fully anchored in yourself, not out of neediness, but out of awareness that gives him space to contribute something unique. Only then does this emotional movement arise. Without it, he may admire you, he may like you, but he will not fight for you. Fighting only makes sense if something has weight, symbolic weight. The tragedy is that many women fall into the trap. They show everything right away, give interest, effort, availability, and believe they are proving their readiness, but in truth, they are only showing that the space for connection is already filled, and true love needs a space that he is allowed to co-create. This trigger, meaning, is not activated by beautiful words or proofs of love. It shows itself in a silent feeling. If I leave her life, something in her changes. Because what I bring is not interchangeable. A man who feels emotionally significant behaves differently. He thinks more about her. He protects. He invests. Neuroscience confirms this experience releases oxytocin, the same bonding hormone that connects a mother with her child. This is how a lasting bond is created. This is the key that hardly anyone talks about. It's not about playing or manipulating. It's about being so connected with your own essence that you effortlessly become his mirror. This has nothing to do with looks, sex, or romance, but with depth. But be careful. This depth frightens men who are still trapped in superficial ego. Men who are desired but do not want to be seen through. Men who enjoy compliments but do not want to be mirrored. Such men withdraw, sabotage, or flee when they feel significance. That is why the real secret is not how to make a man love you, but which man is emotionally ready at all to feel significance. If he is, it doesn't take much, a look that sees behind the role. A conversation that values his feelings and not just his actions. A decision from you that shows he can leave traces, not just bring advantages. That is the invisible trigger. And once it is activated, there is no turning back. A man who feels that he has a unique place in your life, not as a service provider or distraction, but as a living, indispensable presence, changes. He grows, he surrenders, he loves. And the strange thing, it doesn't depend on your effort, but only on awareness. If this truth has touched you and you want to go further on this path, where love is not a game but applied self-knowledge, then subscribe to the channel. Here you hear what the world hides, but what your heart has always known. Here one of the greatest emotional paradoxes of male love shows itself. A man truly connects only when he feels he is contributing, and he only feels that when you don't desperately need him. Many great women, smart, loyal, independent, end up with men who see them as a bonus, not as a priority. That creates silent pain because the thought gnaws, but I am independent, balanced, I give space, I demand nothing. Why doesn't he value me? The answer lies exactly there. You need him for nothing. And as contradictory as it sounds, that unconsciously weakens the feeling of being truly significant for your life. That doesn't mean you should make yourself dependent, fake neediness, or play a game. It's not about playing the helpless princess. It's about something finer, stronger. Creating an emotional space in which he feels important, not necessary but wanted, not irreplaceable in the practical sense but unique in the spiritual sense. A woman who masters this activates in the male brain what psychologists call the center of emotional competence, where self-worth connects with the feeling of being needed and appreciated. But here lies the blind spot. Women who are strong on the outside but closed on the inside unconsciously exclude the man from their story. Men, however, as much as they deny it, want to be part of a story, play a role, have a place, have a meaning. It is like a dance. You can dance alone, of course, you have done it often. But when he comes to the dance floor and you don't let him take a step, he doesn't feel the music with you. He stands on the edge, unsure what to do with his hands. But if you let him lead a little, it doesn't mean you make yourself smaller. On the contrary, it shows that sharing makes you stronger. Because a man who feels that his presence is welcome, that his touch changes something, that his opinion carries weight, begins to invest himself. And here lies the crucial point. Many confuse this emotional space with pampering, self-sacrifice, or self-denial. That is wrong. A woman who creates space does not empty herself. She remains whole, but opens a gap through which someone of value can enter. That is why some women, even if they are not the most beautiful or sensual, find true love. They intuitively understand this invisible balance. They are like a lighthouse, clear, firm, constant, and still allow the other to be a candle that shines in addition. And this is exactly where I want to hold up a mirror to you. How often have you erased yourself in order to be everything? How often have you closed yourself off so as not to seem weak? How often have you hardened yourself so as not to break? It is important to recognize these patterns and rebuild the connection with yourself. A daily practice of self-knowledge can help you dissolve this invisible restlessness that makes you doubt your worth. Because once you were the woman who knew her own worth before the world taught you to prove it constantly, when you see yourself with these eyes again, you will no longer fit into small relationships, because what really attracts men emotionally is not how much you do for him, but how much he feels he does for you and that you acknowledge it. But that only happens if there is space. Space for his actions, his giving, his belonging. The women who remain unforgettable are not those who reveal themselves completely, but those who maintain their integrity and still open doors, not because they have to, but because they choose to. And it is precisely in this conscious choice that real connection arises. Think about it. Can you be this woman, whole but open to addition? Is it easy for you, or is it an inner struggle? Write it in the comments below, because when we speak it out loud, healing begins. Maybe you are doing everything right. You are loving, present, loyal, available. Maybe you try your best to understand his times, phases, and crises, and yet he seems more and more distant, or worse, too comfortable, as if you are there because it has to be that way, not because he chooses you. But what hardly anyone told you, there are small, quiet behaviors, almost invisible, that sabotage this emotional trigger, the feeling of being important. And the sad thing, these attitudes often arise from love, care, and good intentions, and still keep him in a comfort zone where he stops investing, stops committing, stops really seeing you. The first of these mistakes is the most common: excessive emotional care. You become a five-star hotel in his life. You give affection before he asks. You solve problems before he notices them. You send messages before he has a chance to miss you. You are always available, always loving, always trying to show that you are the right choice. But that does not trigger love. It triggers comfort. For him, it feels like an apartment with a jacuzzi, breakfast included, and sea view, without having to pay the bill. Of course he likes it, but he doesn't appreciate it. That's where the danger lies. When love feels too much like a service, people start consuming instead of building, and male love does not arise from consuming, but from investing. The second mistake is subtle but destructive: constant criticism disguised as care. Do you want him to become better, more mature, more communicative, more planned, more open? And because he doesn't, you try to show him, maybe gently, but little by little, he stops listening. Because no matter how good your intentions are, he feels belittled. Not that he makes mistakes, but that he is never enough. And when a man feels small next to you, he withdraws because his masculinity is hurt. It's not about you never being allowed to say what bothers you. It's about how and when you say it. Love does not grow out of fear of mistakes, but out of the freedom to be. A man only connects deeply when he feels, I can be vulnerable and still be appreciated. The third mistake is the most destructive one: the energy of replaceability. This happens when you, unconsciously, show him that he is just one man among many. When you say, all men are the same. When you compare him with ex-partners or friends. When he feels that you are with him because he happened to be there, not because he is unique. A man truly falls in love only when he feels that he holds an irreplaceable place in your life, that you chose him not out of lack of options, but out of clarity about his worth. If he feels that, he opens up. If he feels that he can be replaced at any moment, he builds emotional distance to protect himself. These three mistakes may seem small, but together they create an atmosphere in which he feels unnecessary, unappreciated, and above all, not safe to love. The cruel thing is, all of this often comes from love. A woman loves so much, wants so much to save, that she gives everything. But love does not arise from how much you give. It comes from what he is ready to build with you. And here lies a point that hurts, but must be spoken. Male love needs space. Space to make mistakes. Space to make decisions freely. Space to feel. If I don't make an effort, I will lose her. You destroy this space when you take on roles that are not yours, the savior, the mother, the manager of the relationship. Often it is not the lack, but the excess that blocks love. A woman believes she is creating intimacy, when in reality, she suffocates the mystery. She thinks she is giving security, when in fact she takes away his chance to act. But a man must act, choose, feel. Winning you was a decision, not an accident. If you've read this far and feel uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is the beginning of change. Maybe you recognize yourself in one of these mistakes, maybe in all of them. But what matters is not how much you messed up, but what you do with it now. Tell me, which of these 3 mistakes struck you the most? Which one have you perhaps made without realizing it? Write it in the comments. Sometimes it is enough to read the experiences of other women to heal a little, because you can invest months, even years, in someone who never truly saw you, not because he didn't look, but because his gaze never went deeper than the surface. He saw the version you showed outwardly, not the woman you truly are. And that hurts because every woman deep down feels whether she is merely tolerated or truly valued. The truth is, true love cannot be disguised. It is intentional, present, consistent. It doesn't disappear without explanation, doesn't suddenly change its tone, doesn't hand out emotional crumbs and call them a feast. A man who truly sees you as unique and irreplaceable proves it not only with words, but above all by what he no longer does. He doesn't leave you in doubt. He doesn't keep options open. He doesn't act as if your presence is guaranteed. He understands something most overlook. Your worth lies not in your sacrifice, but in your being. And here lies perhaps the cruelest, but at the same time most liberating point. You don't have to force him to see you. You only have to look, whether he already does. True love does not arise from persuasion, but from recognition. It is quiet and yet deep, simple but powerful, when he understands that among all the possibilities, you are the one who carries something no one else has: presence, meaning. But how do you know if he truly sees you that way? The answer is in the little things, in the way he reacts when you express yourself, in the plans he includes you in on his own, in decisions he makes with your well-being in mind, and above all, in how he deals with your pain. A man who sees you as unique does not belittle your sadness, does not feel uncomfortable with your vulnerability, does not call you dramatic. He holds your pain as if it were his own, even if he doesn't fully understand it. And when he makes mistakes, and he will make mistakes like every human being, he doesn't try to gloss over them, but to repair them. He takes care of the space you build together as if it were sacred, because it is for him. He understands you are not just 2 beings who exist side by side, you are connection. And real connections, when respected, become an emotional home, spaces where both can be, grow, fail, and become again without fear. But beware, this recognition does not happen if you constantly try to occupy everything by yourself. What makes you unique is not how hard you try to please. It is how much courage you have to let yourself be seen without armor. Not constant giving, but the strength to simply exist authentically. Whoever truly sees you will never consider you just a phase, but a conscious choice. Unfortunately, many women try to teach exactly this to someone who has no interest in learning it. They want to convince, argue, prove their worth, as if love were a resume, as if real presence could be negotiated. It cannot. If you constantly have to explain yourself, justify, make yourself smaller, or bend just to fit into the little he can give you, then he does not see you, and more, he does not deserve the opportunity to see you. That is the moment you must change your focus. Stop asking yourself, will he choose me? Instead, ask yourself, does this man see me as unique or just as an option? Because you can give yourself completely and still be treated as nothing more than emotional entertainment. And when that happens, it's not because of how wonderful you are, but because of how cut off he is from his own ability to truly love. In the end, the choice is not his, it is yours. You decide whether to keep trying to be enough for someone who never truly saw you, or whether you choose to let go of all the silence about what you should be and begin to see yourself through the eyes of those who already understood your worth. A woman who is perceived as unique does not make noise to be noticed. She becomes unforgettable through the quiet presence of someone who knows what she carries within.